Hello, and welcome to another lunchtime session. And I'm your host, Neil Millard, DevOps Professional of the Year. Apparently, I'm still in a bit of shock about that. And today, what we're going to talk about, let's have a little look see. Shove me over in the corner there. We're talking about staying relevant. Um, so, we're going to talk about a few things like why staying relevant matters and why it's important and all that sort of thing. But before I get onto that, I'm just going to ask a question about should we have a live Q&A session a bit like this, but you guys can post a load of questions in, and then I can work through those questions, and we'll see how that works. Of course, if you've got any specific subjects that you want me to talk about, then shove them in the comments below, and we'll be sure to take those on board. So, why staying relevant matters? So, in IT, and I guess a lot of other jobs, but obviously I only talk mostly about IT, that's my subject. Stuff changes all the time. The only constant is change, as they say. And so there's new technologies, new tools, new trends, new fashions, and all sorts of things that are new and improved, as the soap manufacturers would tell us. And so staying current is very important if you want to stay employable. Nothing more so than now, with the event of AI this and AI that and AI the other, and now I've said AI 3 times, you've got to give me a load of money, right? That's how it works, I understand. But we got to stay on our A game in order to not necessarily stay ahead, but work with the new technology. So this moves on to the importance of continuous learning, the expansion of new skills and things, and knowing what's new coming along. I'll give you an example. So this week in Bristol, there was an AWS get together where they were sharing some newness, and one of the products that they were showing has got a great name, and I've completely forgotten it right now. But essentially, it checks Terraform and plonks it against your pull requests, so that it also sort of automates it. Now, it's nothing that you couldn't do with a bit of API plumbing, but somebody's already done it for you. It's like you run a machine in your own AWS environment, and it'll do a plan, and it'll throw that on the PR just so you can see the result of the plan, and then you can comment interactively, if you like, with the PR, and it will then apply that and then tell you the results of the apply, and then you can close the PR. And it's kind of like a little different workflow to how you might use Terraform, but not terribly different to if you were running it through a Jenkins pipeline and you had a couple of steps in there. So there's just a little bit more interactivity if you're working with GitHub and PRs and GitHub Actions, I suppose. But that's a new thing, and some people might find that interesting and important, and it might give more insights into, actually, we could automatically apply our Terraform and things like that. Maybe it gets you to think differently. But these things are happening all the time. It's continuous learning and new skills and new abilities and things are approaching, so it's important that we stay on top of those. So how would you do this continuous learning? One thing that I've seen a lot of employers do, and I know that I'm mainly contractor centric, but a lot of the tech companies, they'll say, well, let's allow the technical staff to have a half day of learning or something like that. And now, unfortunately, what I've seen is a lot of the companies is that as soon as you hit a team leader level, they're like, oh, you don't need to be technical anymore, so ditch that. Which is like, what? Surely even as a team leader, you're still doing technical stuff and you still need to keep learning. And as a contractor, that's even more true. Whilst there's a certain amount of learning on the job, as a contractor, you're expected to be an expert. And so I do spend some time during the weekends, keeping up on stuff and things recently been involved in a project involving PHP. So I've not touched PHP for a few years. So as a warm up to get ready, picking up some PHP 8 skills. The last time I touched it, I think it was version 6 or something. And these things don't change in leaps and bounds particularly, but it's just those little tweaks for keeping up to date. And if you want to stay up to date, then you must keep that time in your diary. Like the employers keep for their employees, okay, it's done on paid time, that's an employee perk maybe, but then they don't get paid as much, so swings and roundabouts. As contractors, we need to just put something in the diary to say, right, this is my self-development time or learning time or whatever else you want to do it, as long as you block that time out. And so part of being an IT techie is, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is we're excited by new shiny things, which can be a blessing and a curse by equal measure. As working on a project, if you're grinding that project out a bit and it's taken longer than you feel it ought to, then you can see the new shinies appearing and you'll feel that you're missing out. But on the flip side of that is that because we are contractors, we can change between the new projects, and we do get the shiny new stuff quite often before lots of other people do, and we get that experience up front, which is lovely. And so part of embracing technology certainly helps gather that information and gather that excitement about the things and using all the things. AI, you could see it as a threat, it's going to replace your job, or you can embrace it and use it to augment your own wonderfulness already. It's now more becoming a replacement, if you like, for a search engine. So rather than going to search engine and it come back with some results, or going to Stack Overflow or whatever, you could use one of the chat engines, ChatGPT or Claude, and it will come back with an answer for you. Now we know that they hallucinate, so it's not 100%. That's why I'm not afraid that it's going to steal my job anytime soon. That last 20% is always really difficult to get, and we haven't even scratched the surface on AI anyway. But embrace it, bring it in, join with it, join forces with it. It's not your enemy, it's your friend, and we can all work together. So embracing new technology. Of course, there's also stuff that, what about actual intelligence, as I like to call it, real intelligence, other people you can talk to, and about their shared experiences. What do they see happening? If you're on a client site, sometimes you're stuck in that little bubble, and that's great because you can be the expert in that pond. But the sea is much larger than that, and so by talking to other people on different projects, you get a sense of what else is happening. Maybe something is new coming along the line. Maybe something's have a resurgence. Blimey, everyone's doing Puppet again. Maybe not. I think Ansible's still winning in that game. But by talking to other people and working on what other projects they're working on, you can get that different insight and help either spot where the trends are coming or where they're going, or maybe just picking up some new skills from speaking to somebody else. And so networking is great for expanding your network. And that doesn't necessarily mean in person, although in person is great, but often they're really busy environments. They're great for introductions, but then if you want a meaningful conversation after that, you'll have to schedule some time, meet up in person for a coffee maybe, or more likely have a virtual meeting similar to what we're doing now. Of course, if you want something more structured, some more structured training, then there is workshops. There are online workshops at your own pace type training, or there are sort of ad hoc workshops where you could just watch YouTube videos. I suppose that's sort of a workshop. And then there's fixed in-person workshops. Now, personally, I've not been to a in-person workshop for quite a few years now, what with COVID and remote working. But the online stuff, absolutely, something else comes along. AWS have got a tremendous amount of online resources. Same for Google, same for Azure, and same for quite a lot of the other providers, CloudBees and stuff like that. They all do bits of training. So if there's anything you want to see, then no doubt you can find a workshop for it. And I touched on this earlier, fear can hold you back in many ways. Oh, I don't know, new technology, maybe I'm a bit too old for that. Heck, I'm not too old for it. You definitely aren't. But if it's not something you've touched for a while or seen for a while, or something completely radically new and you have to learn a lot in order to get up to speed with it, that's okay. The quickest way to do that is just one step at a time. Because you'll find that once you take that first step, the second, third, fourth, 10th, 20th step quickly follows. But sitting there and dreading doing it is just going to hold you back, when in fact you could already be doing it. And so the choice is entirely of yours. You can wonder about something, but nothing truly happens until you take some action towards that. Of course, it doesn't stop there. We have to keep staying up to date. It's a never-ending mountain, if you might like. And there's things coming along all the time, which is why staying up to date with other resources, like the online learning platforms that I've mentioned already, e-learning and things, will keep you in spec with what you do know. But how do you find out about what you don't know? Then listening to webinars like this or podcasts can give you insights on stuff that you've not heard about yet. Are you using a full stack? Are you just in Azure? Maybe AWS is something that you're not really touching at the moment, but you could play around with their trial account. Yeah, they've got a trial account. Have you tried working within that? And it doesn't even cost you anything to test this stuff out. There are some tech podcasts. There's a specific one by Quinny Pig, all about AWS and the new announcements that are coming up. And so there's some other specialist podcasts as well around the IT subjects based on what you want to know. And the professional meetups, they're starting to come back now. I've seen a couple advertised in Bristol and Manchester, and a couple in London as well. Next month I'll be in Bristol at a co-working day, so I can mix with other technical professionals and get the latest news about what's happening and what's occurring. And I'll be speaking with a wide range of people on there, data scientists, as well as salespeople and programmers, and getting quite a good breadth of all sorts of gubbins that's going on with that. So in conclusion then, staying up to date does require a commitment of time from you, and the easiest way to have that is it's scheduled in your diary as an important thing, along with the other important things. And no doubt there's some other things you need to do at the weekends. I go shopping in person, which is wow, but then I get to see people, so that's the good thing there, rather than somebody just delivering it to my door. Also gets me out of the house, which is important. But time commitments all over the place, so putting the time commitment in there to say, hey, I'm going to go read this blog, or I'm going to listen to this podcast, just to help keep that momentum going and keep the ideas fresh. And don't forget to embrace new technologies. Just because you haven't heard of something before doesn't mean it's complete rubbish. At least have a look at it first, and it might be rubbish. Fine, you've only wasted a couple of minutes looking at that thing, but then maybe it's going to open up a new avenue of work for you, something to get the excitement and the juices flowing again. And by staying up to date, it means that you'll remain competitive in your career. So when you see those projects coming through and they're asking for specific skills, easy for me to say, you can then see maybe that there's other subjects that you can research and talk about. So, what about becoming a contractor? There's a little bit of work involved that's over and above being a permanent employee, or perhaps you already are a contractor and you're going through an umbrella company. If you're outside IR35, you really shouldn't be using an umbrella company. Let us help you with that. But first, you can see if you're ready. You can pop along to our quiz and it'll ask you some questions, and then we can give you a report as to show where those gaps in your knowledge perhaps are and how we can work together and get you on that track. This is what the page looks like. We only ask for a couple of details, your name and email address, nothing else. That's just so we can send the report to you. And here we are at the end, where I open up the floor to any questions. Now, I'm still looking for a Q&A tool that will work well with LinkedIn. So if you've got any ideas, please put them in the comments below and we'll get those up for next time. Otherwise, like I say, any feedback on future sessions that we should do, and any questions you've got specifically for me, anything at all really, put them in the comments and we'll get back to you. There are other ways of reaching out to me, like LinkedIn, or if you're lucky enough to be on our Slack, then you can ask me questions directly. But other than that, that's all I've got time for you, and I shall see you next time.